Man, I want to talk about the time you recruited me to come back to the Raiders.
Yeah.
If you can remember, I'll recall it a little bit. So I was there the last 5 games for Oakland. We had fun. Like, we weren't having the best season. Went out on a decent note defensively. And Coach Gruden brings me in for an exit meeting. You know, not like the NIL exit meetings where it's like, hey, you got to pay me this or I'm not coming back. But he brings me in on an exit meeting. Coach Gruden's like, well, I need Will Compton back. Like, you're not going to be a Hall of Famer. You're not going to be a Pro Bowler. And I'm sitting there in my head like, I'm still playing. Like, yeah, I understand I can't be I probably won't be a Pro Bowler, but I can still aspire to still have a little bit of juice in the tank.
Could be a Pro Bowler though.
Yeah,
Hall of Famer will put that
right.
We'll
He's saying this. He's like, I want you around. We need more Will Comptons on the team, and I don't know what's going to happen in free agency. Yada yada yada. Because I got to play and start like 3 games there at the end, which I'm thinking in my head when I went out there and I did my workout. I was on the squad. I was in the backup. I was special teams. I was starting in base that fucking first week. I mean, Coach Gruden comes up. He's like, hey, just don't even think out there. Go out there and make plays. Have fun. I love you, man.
That's awesome.
Like,
who would you play first week?
The Lions. We played the Lions the first week. And so I ended up taking over the job, finishing out those 3 games. And so I'm thinking in my head, I thought I was coming out there to kind of finish out my career. Like, let me go out there. I'll go out on a bang, have some fun, be for the boys, bring some merchandise, promote Bussin, and just have a good time. Because the stress is off of, like, I felt like my career was kind of done after I got injured with the Saints. And so it's like, oh, okay, I get to go out here and play. Like, I'm just going to go have fun and finish off playing the game that I started loving. And so when I played those 3 games, I'm thinking in my head, like, maybe I might get a little something. I knew I bought myself a year or 2 just because I got to play again. I got to have some film. But they go in to recruit me. They pay $50 million to like Littleton and Kwiatkowski, great linebackers, good linebackers. But I'm thinking in my head, like, you know, I thought I might get a little bit of coin.
2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, guaranteed money is what he wanted.
Yeah, everyone does. Every player does.
What I'm interested in, though, is I have this philosophy. It's called RCE. You should get a hat and put RCE on it. Recognition, communication, execution. I think you got to have it at quarterback. The guy's got to recognize the defense and then communicate the line call, the audible, whatever. And that's going to lead to high levels of execution. The thing I loved about Will is he could recognize the offense. He could recognize the situation, and he could communicate better than most guys I've seen at linebacker. He was a sharp guy, and that would lead to higher levels of execution. A lot of the yards you see are bullshit yards. Bad tackling, bad defensive entry, mistakes, a lack of recognition, a lack of communication. And if we can have that piece and a secure piece, that's what I was really after. But you were, let's be honest here, you could come out with that smiley face with that microphone. You wanted guaranteed money, and I can't blame the guys. Go out to California and play football, Vegas.
Yeah, that was the first year transitioning to Vegas.
Yeah.
Because they had I had a minimum on the table with no signing bonus, which it's like the game's the game. There was no market for me. So they were in a spot to where it's like, I mean, nothing else is out there for you. We'll offer you this. And, you know, I got PG calling me. He's like explaining everything. He's like, and Coach Gruden's like, I just want you around. I want them to see you communicate all this stuff. You don't have to practice. You don't have to do this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I just came out there as a minimum player and proved that I could play like the week of the game. Like, I can do the same exact thing and not put wear and tear on my body for training camp.
Right.
And I'm telling
it was always training camp with you.
It was always training camp. It was always just getting it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
always training camp. And PG was like, can you call Coach Gruden and tell him the same stuff? Because he's coming in. He's like, how are we signing Prince Amukamara and Nelson Aguilar? And Will won't come out here to the Raiders. I'm like, yeah, I'll be happy to talk to him. I called Coach Gruden, and I think he was just finishing a workout. It sounded like he was sweating a little bit. He's like, Will Compton? He's like, you're harder to sign than Keyshawn Johnson, man. How do we get you out here to the Raiders? And I'm thinking, yeah, I bet you over Keyshawn Johnson more than a minimum and a Subway gift card. And we're like bantering, laughing back and forth. And I always loved that story. I couldn't wait to tell my old man because he's always been a massive fan of football and yourself. Mm-hmm. But that's my like recruiting story with Coach Gruden. Mm-hmm. You're harder to sign than Keyshawn Johnson, man. I'm like, well, fuck. I mean, I'm sure you paid him some money.
Yeah. You had some characters in that Raiders team. What was your interactions like with Richie Incognito?
Love him.
Great guy.
Incognito's out of football. He had the episode with Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He's out of the league. And we brought him in for a workout. And we have the cones set up. We got Tom Cable, really good line coach, been with Seattle a long time. and Incognito comes out and he's listening to Tom Cable tell him what he wants him to do. He wants him to hop, basically, the first 10 yards, karaoke, do a couple other things just to showcase his athleticism and his whatever, how he can bend and twist. Incognito goes around the thing one time, half speed, and Cable goes, I've seen enough.
Really?
He's a great Incognito's a really good athlete.
I had the
People
opportunity
don't
to train with
understand.
him. Yeah.
He went to Nebraska. He's a little full of shit like Compton. But, he has the it factor that we needed. He had the nastiness. He has the Taylor Lewan personality. He's very outgoing. He's not afraid to say something. He'll make you laugh. He'll piss you off. He had everything we needed at guard, and he could pull on the power plays and adjust. He has a great ability to get out on screens, but I love being around him. He comes to Tampa. We play golf a little bit. He likes my wife. My wife's about this tall, and he's been through a lot in his life, but he's really a character. We had Vontaze Burfict. We had traded for Antonio Brown. They put us on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
What a collection I was assembling. You
were,
guys.
yes.
I was trying to bring back the old Raiders, the 75, 80
And
Raiders.
You did it. How was it? What was it like having Burfict and AB on the same team? Because obviously there's the whole thing about CTE, ESPN that AB's doing, and you see the hit that Burfict put on AB.
Yeah.
Like, was there ever... Did you have to make amends there? Did you ever
I never
pull him in
got
the room?
around Antonio enough. Antonio showed up on a hot air balloon. He had his feet fried. He had cryotherapy. I never even heard of cryotherapy. And he had an issue with his helmet. He wasn't happy the NFL wouldn't let him wear his helmet. So we really never got him around the guys very much. I didn't have very much interaction with them at all. Really, one of the most frustrating things in my coaching career was not getting him to play for us. We had a mini camp. I tell you, we had a mini camp back in Oakland. He put on a display. He took some of our routes that we like to call lookies. I got all these words. He made the routes look better than anybody I've ever seen. And his conditioning was sick. If we didn't have a fence around the field, he might have got killed by a car because he finishes everything. He'll run 100 miles an hour. I went home and got hammered one night after minicamp. I told my wife, I said, we're going to complete every pass. That's how good this guy looked. He was phenomenal. And unfortunately, I never got him for one freaking game.
What's the conversation with Mayock when they're like, you walk in, you're like, hey, what's the problem with AB? And they're like, doesn't like his helmet. Oh, his feet were fried from cryotherapy. Like, what are those upstairs conversations like when you're trying to deal with a guy like that?
Well, Mike was a new GM too, so a lot of this stuff is first time. And
what an experience! What a first year.
It was a rough deal. And you're on Hard Knocks, by the way.
Yeah.
Then you got Vontaze Burfict, but the two of those guys, they mixed pretty good. They kind of laughed with one another. And Richie was kind of like the third part of the party. Well, those conversations were great. You talk about ball busting. You talk about busting with the boys. You should see some of the boys I bust with. But I always felt this. If you have football character on your team, and we felt our coaching staff, we had Derek Carr, we had some really good veteran players, good football character. Let's bring in some characters. So we bring in Burfict. Burfict really he's a great guy, and he's a smart guy. He just knocks the shit out of you. And what's wrong with that? I mean, I that's my feeling. And I think if you do have the character in place, you can bring in some characters and have some fun. And Richie Incognito is a great guy. Don't kid yourself on Burfict either. He's really smart. He's really a hell of a guy. He's misunderstood, perhaps by some. And I really enjoyed Antonio Brown. I mean, hell, he went out with my son. He cut a song. They got a song out there. I'm not even going to tell you the name.
We got to find that.
Electronic dance song.
Sherm will definitely find that thing before day's end.
And even on Incognito too, like he was how old was he? He was like the oldest player on the team.
34, 35
on
years
that
old.
roster.
Yep.
And he was a pro. I'm talking about like whenever practice would end, he had the massage therapist that'd be coming in, the needling he'd be getting done, like somebody who like took care of his body around the clock.
And working out with him in Arizona, he is a guy that like doesn't necessarily look like an athlete, but is truly athletic. Like he has all the pieces of an offensive line you'd want. And he's stout too.
Incognito, yeah. I mean, we remember the COVID where you can't have meetings with the players in person. So we would have Zoom meetings. So you would see all the players on their little, corner. You'd be having an offensive line meeting and you'd see the 15 offensive line meeting. You'd have a team meeting and you could see a lot of the faces. So I remember Incognito one time took all his clothes off, was walking around in his garage, He just did things that were so off the wall hilarious. to keep everybody laughing. God bless that guy.
The babyface
man.
killer, man.
Yeah.
He hasn't aged a bit. Look at that face.
You got to see him hit a golf ball.
He can play. He's an athlete.
He is an
athlete, man. He looks
Wrong person to get on the bad side with on
No-
the football field. Like
no
he was
doubt
one of
about
those dudes that was a menace on just field goal.
yeah. Oh,
Just
really?
trying to finish you on field. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't want to deal with that.
You want to get him going to hopefully draw a penalty.
I wish I was able to play with him. I would have loved to play. I think he was with Buffalo for a minute. There was a little bit of talk about him coming to the Titans. And I was like, man, that'd be awesome to play right next to him for a year.